All right, let's dive in, shall we? This time, you and I are stepping into F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby,
Ooh, Gatsby.
a classic. So we're thinking Roaring Twenties, Long Island, those lavish, what are they? Those jazz age parties.
So much champagne.
So much champagne and that whole allure of new money.
Yeah, yeah.
But really, we're here to try and unpack who is Jay Gatsby. You know, this man, this myth, almost this legend, but more importantly, I think, what does his story tell us about the American dream? Its promises, its pitfalls, um, its enduring power, I guess.
Right. And, Fitzgerald was so masterful in how he constructed this world.
Yeah.
He doesn't just like throw us into the whirlwind of Gatsby's parties.
Right.
Instead, we experience everything through Nick Carraway, our narrator.
Yeah.
This young man from the Midwest lands in West Egg, right next door to Gatsby.
I love that we see everything through Nick's eyes.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
we're right there with him, sipping some bootleg gin.
Trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. Trying to make sense of it all, right? This extravagant, sometimes kind of bewildering world.
Exact.
He's always trying so hard to reserve all judgments, as his father taught him. But do you think he succeeds?
Well, that's the thing about Nick.
Right.
He's fascinated by the spectacle,
Yeah.
captivated by Gatsby, but there's a part of him that remains an outsider, always observing, always questioning.
I like that.
Yeah, he's kind of like us, the readers, right?
Right.
Trying to figure out what is driving these characters,
Mhm.
what lies beneath the surface.
It's interesting you say that because even from the beginning, there are these hints that Nick
Yeah.
is maybe more involved than he lets on.
Sure.
Like when he remembers his father's advice about reserving judgment.
Right.
It's almost like you can sense Nick himself struggles with it.
It's like he's both attracted to and repelled by this world he finds himself in.
Yeah.
And that tension makes him such a compelling narrator, I think.
Totally. So we have Nick, our guide or confidant, settling into West Egg. And who does he have as his neighbor? Gatsby.
Gatsby.
And what does he find? Those legendary parties, right?
Legendary.
Overflowing with champagne,
Champagne, yeah.
orchestras, an endless parade of guests.
It never ends.
Do you think Gatsby actually enjoyed those parties?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Or were they all for show?
Well, that's where it gets interesting because these parties weren't just about fun.
Right.
They were a carefully orchestrated performance.
Oh, interesting.
They were spectacle,
Uh-huh.
designed to attract attention, to create an aura of mystery,
Right.
intrigue around Gatsby. And Gatsby understood the power of illusion,
Yeah.
the power of creating an image that drew people in. He was crafting a legend.
He was crafting his own legend, and people were drawn to it, weren't they?
They were drawn to it.
Desperate to get a glimpse of Gatsby, right? But Gatsby himself, almost like a ghost,
A ghost, yeah.
floating through these parties, barely even interacting with
Right.
his guests. It's like he wasn't really there for the party,
And that's the point.
right?
The parties were never truly about the guests.
Right.
They were a beacon.
A beacon.
Yeah, a desperate attempt to recapture the past,
Uh-huh.
to draw in the one person who truly mattered to him, Daisy Buchanan.
Daisy. The Golden Girl, it seems like everything Gatsby did was driven by his love for her.
Absolutely. Their paths crossed 5 years before the events of the novel.
Okay.
Gatsby was instantly smitten.
Mm-hmm.
Daisy represented everything he desired. Beauty, grace, belonging to this exclusive world that he longed to be a part of.
But she was from East Egg, right?
East Egg, yeah.
That old money crowd.
Owed money, yeah.
And Gatsby at that time, just a young soldier, no fortune, no social standing.
Precisely. He wasn't suitable for someone like Daisy, right?
Right.
And while he was away fighting the war, Daisy married Tom Buchanan,
Tom Buchanan.
who had everything Gatsby lacked. Wealth, lineage, a place in that established social order.
So Gatsby spends years building himself up,
You hear?
amassing a fortune, creating this persona of Jay Gatsby.
Yeah, Gatsby, yeah.
He buys that mansion across the bay from Daisy, throws these extravagant parties, all in the hope of winning her back.
Right, that's the paradox of Gatsby's American dream.
Yeah.
He believes that by accumulating enough wealth and recreating the past,
Right.
that he can erase the social barriers that separated him from Daisy.
Mm-hmm.
But can you really rewrite your destiny?
Yeah.
Or is Gatsby clinging to an illusion?
And the parties themselves were almost like a physical manifestation of that
Right.
illusion, this grand facade of happiness, success, all carefully curated to impress Daisy.
So fascinating, isn't it?
Totally.
We're drawn into this world of beauty and glamour.
Right.
But beneath the surface, there's a
Yeah.
sense of desperation, a yearning for something that may be forever out of reach.
Speaking of facades, remember that scene with the owl-eyed man?
The owl-eyed man, yeah.
In Gatsby's library.
Right.
And he's shocked to find that the books are real.
They're real books.
Not just empty covers.
Oh, that moment's so symbolic.
Yeah.
It's like even the smallest details of Gatsby's life are meticulously crafted to create this illusion of sophistication, of belonging to this world that he so desperately wants to be a part of.
But even as Gatsby's constructing this elaborate facade, he also embellishes his past.
Right.
He tells Nick he attended Oxford. Even
Okay.
produces a photo as proof. But we learn later he was only there a few months through an army program.
Yeah.
Why do you think he feels the need to fabricate these details?
I think it speaks to the insecurity
Okay.
that still haunts Gatsby.
Yeah.
He's trying to erase his humble beginnings,
Right.
to present himself as someone worthy of Daisy's love.
Mm.
It's like he believes that by rewriting his past,
Right.
he can somehow change the present.
It's both fascinating and heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
And then we have Tom Buchanan, Daisy's husband,
Tom Buchanan.
who I think embodies everything Gatsby's trying to overcome.
Right. Tom represents that established social order that Gatsby seeks to penetrate.
Yeah.
He's arrogant, entitled,
Ah.
and deeply threatened by Gatsby's newfound wealth
Yeah.
and his pursuit of Daisy.
There's that scene where Tom is openly racist and classist, right?
Yeah.
Ranting about the new money crowd encroaching on their world.
What new money? Yeah.
But isn't he new money himself?
Oh, exactly.
His family's fortune is relatively recent, isn't it?
It's totally hypocritical. It highlights the hypocrisy of Tom's world.
Right.
They cling to this idea of old money superiority.
Right.
But their wealth is often built on the backs of others.
Yeah.
They fear losing their privileged position. And Gatsby, with his mysterious fortune and his pursuit of Daisy, represents a direct threat.
To their power.
Yeah.
So we have this simmering tension between Gatsby and Tom, both vying for Daisy's affection,
Yeah.
both clinging to their own versions of the American dream.
Right.
What I find interesting is how Fitzgerald juxtaposes this world of wealth and privilege
Yeah.
with the stark reality of the Valley of Ashes.
Right. The Valley of Ashes.
That desolate wasteland where George and Myrtle Wilson live.
Yes.
It feels like a completely different world, just a stone's throw from Gatsby's mansion.
That contrast is so deliberate.
Yeah.
The Valley of Ashes represents the underside of the American dream, the forgotten casualties of this relentless pursuit of wealth and pleasure.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder that not everyone benefits from this economic boom,
Right.
that the pursuit of happiness can come at a cost for others,
Yeah.
a huge cost.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like Fitzgerald's holding up a mirror, you know,
Yeah,
showing us this dark side of the American dream.
absolutely.
Like, while Gatsby is throwing these lavish parties,
Right.
George Wilson is struggling to just survive
Survive, yeah.
in this this desolate wasteland.
It is a powerful juxtaposition, and it's in this Valley of Ashes that we encounter those eyes. The eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg.
Yes.
That looming billboard just overlooking everything.
Those eyes always creeped me out.
Yeah, they're a little creepy.
They're so watchful, so judgmental. I always saw them as a symbol of, you know,
Right.
God looking down on this moral decay.
Yeah, that's a common interpretation. Those eyes seem to represent a moral conscience,
Right.
a reminder that actions have consequences, even in a world obsessed with wealth and pleasure.
Right.
But they also raise questions about who gets to judge, right?
Right.
Who
Yeah.
gets to define what's right and wrong.
In this complex landscape.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how Fitzgerald introduces us to George and Myrtle Wilson,
Yes.
whose lives become so intertwined with the wealthy elite
Yeah.
in such a tragic way.
And Myrtle, Tom Buchanan's mistress,
Yeah.
so desperate to escape her life in the Valley of Ashes.
Yeah.
She sees Tom as her ticket to a better world, a world of glamour and excitement.
Right.
Almost like she's chasing her own version of the American dream,
Right.
albeit a very distorted one.
But isn't she just buying into the same illusions that trap Gatsby?
Absolutely.
You know, she's drawn to the surface, to the wealth, the status that Tom represents.
Right.
But she's blind to the reality
Totally blind.
that he'll never truly leave Daisy.
Never.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. Both Gatsby and Myrtle are seeking fulfillment in the wrong places.
Yeah.
They're chasing external validation, material possessions, believing that these things will fill the void in their lives.
What about George? He seems like a decent man trapped in a hopeless situation.
Yeah, George is a tragic figure. He loves Myrtle.
Yeah.
But he can't provide her with the life she craves.
Right.
He represents the forgotten casualties, right?
Yeah.
Of this era of prosperity, those who are struggling to keep up, who feel left behind.
By this relentless pursuit of wealth.
Relentless.
Yeah. So while Gatsby is busy constructing his grand illusion in West Egg,
right,
George and Myrtle are struggling to survive.
In the shadow of that excess.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder of this social divide.
Absolutely.
That Fitzgerald so brilliantly captures in this novel.
It's like he's peeling back the layers of the American dream.
Yeah.
Exposing the cracks beneath the surface.
Right.
The inequality, the moral corruption.
That often lie hidden.
Yeah, that lie hidden.
Speaking of Gatsby's illusion, how did he even create Jay Gatsby?
Ooh, good question.
We know he started as James Gass, right?
James Gass, yeah.
This poor kid from North Dakota.
Right.
What transformed him into this enigmatic millionaire?
Well, buckle up.
Oh, okay.
Because this is where Gatsby's past takes an interesting turn.
Okay.
It all began with a chance encounter.
Okay.
With a millionaire named Dan Cody.
Dan Cody, wasn't he a self-made man?
Self-made man, a product of the gold rush era.
The gold rush, okay.
Yeah, Cody was wealthy, but he was also a flawed character. Prone to excess.
Right.
Vulnerable to those who sought to exploit his fortune.
Okay.
Gatsby, just a teenager at the time, was drifting aimlessly, working odd jobs along Lake Superior when he spotted Cody's yacht anchored offshore.
What happened next? Did Gatsby just, like, row out and introduce himself?
It's even more dramatic than that.
Oh, okay.
Gatsby saw a storm approaching.
Uh-oh.
And in a daring act of courage, he rowed out to warn Cody.
Wow.
He risked his life to save a man he didn't even know.
That's incredible.
It is.
What did Cody think of this, young, audacious stranger?
He was impressed. He saw something in Gatsby. Ambition, determination.
Right.
A hunger for something more.
Yeah.
Cody took Gatsby under his wing.
Really?
Made him his personal assistant, his protege.
Wow. So Gatsby spent years traveling the world with Cody.
Years.
Experiencing a life of luxury,
yeah,
extravagance. I mean, something he could never have imagined before.
Right.
What impact do you think that had on him?
Oh, those years were formative for Gatsby.
Yeah.
He learned about the power of wealth.
Okay.
The freedom it could buy.
Right.
The access it granted.
Right.
To these exclusive circles.
Yeah.
But he also witnessed the darker side of Cody's world.
Oh, interesting.
The indulgence, the fleeting pleasures.
Yay.
The constant maneuvering for position and advantage.
It's almost like Gatsby was absorbing both the good and the bad.
Yeah.
The lessons that would shape his own pursuit of wealth and status.
Wealth and status, yeah.
Did Cody teach him anything else?
Well, here's a crucial detail.
Okay.
Cody was deeply distrustful of women. Especially those who, in his view, were only after his money.
Right.
And he instilled this cynicism in Gatsby.
Really?
Which may explain his almost idealized view of Daisy.
That's an interesting point.
It is.
Gatsby's love for Daisy seems so pure.
Sure, yeah.
So untainted by that corruption that he witnessed in Cody's world.
Perhaps that's why he clings to her so desperately.
Yeah.
She represents a kind of innocence, a symbol of everything he believes wealth should bring. Beauty, love, happiness.
But in clinging to this idealized version of Daisy, he fails to see her as she truly is.
As she truly is, exactly.
And maybe that's the tragedy of Gatsby's story.
Right.
He's so focused on recreating the past, on winning back this Daisy of his dreams, that he loses sight of the present, of the reality that their lives have moved on.
It speaks to the danger of nostalgia.
Right.
Of idealizing the past.
Yeah.
To the point where it becomes this unattainable fantasy.
And it raises questions about whether we can ever truly escape our pasts.
Yeah, good point.
Or if we're always shaped by those experiences that define us.
Yeah, that's deep.
It makes you wonder if Gatsby ever truly loved Daisy for who she was.
Right.
Or if he was in love with the idea of her.
Ooh.
The symbol she represented.
That's a provocative question.
Right.
And it brings us back to the American dream, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is it about achieving genuine happiness? Or is it about chasing an illusion,
Right.
a carefully constructed image of success and fulfillment?
And I think that's one of the things that makes The Great Gatsby so enduring. It forces us to confront these questions about our own desires, our own ambitions, and the illusions we may be clinging to.
Illusions we cling to.
So we've talked about Gatsby and Daisy and Tom, even the Wilsons caught in the undertow of it all.
Right.
But what about Nick?
Nick.
He's the one telling us this story, right?
Right.
Guiding us through this world.
Yeah.
How do you see him changing as the story unfolds?
Well, Nick's journey is fascinating. He arrives in West Egg so wide-eyed, drawn to the excitement.
Yeah.
Even a bit envious, I think, of Gatsby's ability to create this life for himself.
Right.
But as he witnesses the unraveling, the betrayals, the casual cruelty of the wealthy elite, his perspective really shifts.
Yeah, at the beginning he seems so determined to follow his father's advice, to reserve all judgments.
Right.
But it feels like the more he learns about Gatsby and Daisy and Tom, the harder that becomes.
Yeah, that tension is at the heart of Nick's character. He wants to believe in Gatsby's dream, in the possibility of love conquering all, but he's also deeply observant.
Right.
And he can't ignore the moral compromises, the self-deception, the destructive consequences of Gatsby's pursuit.
Yeah, he's caught between those two worlds, isn't he?
He is.
The shimmering allure of West Egg and then the harsh realities of the Valley of Ashes.
Yes.
Remember when he describes the Valley of Ashes for the first time? It's such a stark contrast. To the opulence of Gatsby's parties.
Well, and that's one of the things that makes Fitzgerald so brilliant.
Right.
He juxtaposes those extremes, right? The decadent wealth of the Roaring Twenties, and the grinding poverty of those left behind. The Valley of Ashes isn't just a physical location.
Right.
It's a symbol of the moral emptiness, the spiritual wasteland that's created by this unchecked pursuit of wealth.
And it's in the Valley of Ashes that we see the consequences of that pursuit.
Yeah.
Most clearly, right?
Absolutely.
Myrtle Wilson, caught between her desire for a better life and the reality of her situation.
Yes.
George Wilson, driven to despair by his wife's infidelity and his own powerlessness.
Right. And their story is such a stark counterpoint to Gatsby's.
Right.
They too are chasing a version of the American dream.
Yeah.
But they lack the resources, the opportunities, the sheer audacity that Gatsby has that allows him to reinvent himself.
Right.
To at least temporarily achieve some semblance of success.
And in the end, both Gatsby and the Wilsons become victims of this same system.
Yeah.
A system that values wealth and status above all else.
Above all else.
They're crushed by the weight of the very dream that they were trying to attain.
It's so tragic because they all believe that happiness can be found in these external things.
Yeah.
In wealth and social standing, in possessing the object of their desire.
Right.
But The Great Gatsby suggests that true fulfillment lies in something deeper.
Right, something more elusive.
More elusive.
So where does that leave Nick?
Yeah.
By the end of the novel, he's deeply disillusioned.
He is.
With this world that he's witnessed.
Yeah, he recognizes the hollowness of Gatsby's dream.
Right.
The shallowness of the wealthy elite.
Yeah.
He sees the destructive consequences of their actions. Their careless disregard for those around them.
Yeah.
And he chooses to walk away.
He returns to the Midwest, right?
He does, yeah.
Back to a world that seems, more grounded, more authentic.
Yeah, I think his departure is significant, It's a rejection of the values that Gatsby and Tom and Daisy represent. It's a recognition that the American dream as they embody it is ultimately corrupt, a mirage.
Yeah.
That leads to disillusionment and despair.
But he doesn't just walk away, does he? New writes Gatsby's story, preserving his memory, giving meaning to his tragic fate.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Nick's final act.
Right.
He becomes Gatsby's biographer in a sense.
Yeah.
He acknowledges Gatsby's flaws, his self-deception.
Right.
But he also recognizes the beauty of his dream, the purity of his love for Daisy.
And in doing so, doesn't Nick offer a kind of redemption for Gatsby?
Absolutely. He elevates him beyond just this tragic figure he might have otherwise been.
Right.
Reminding us that even in the face of failure, there's something noble in striving for something greater than yourself.
Right. So The Great Gatsby is a cautionary tale.
Right.
Yes. But it's also a story about the enduring power of hope, the beauty of dreams, even when those dreams are ultimately unattainable.
Beautifully said.
So as we close the book on The Great Gatsby,
Yeah.
what should we take away from this deep dive?
Well, I think Fitzgerald leaves us with this really powerful message about the American dream.
Right.
He challenges us to examine what we truly value, to consider the costs of our ambitions, to question whether the pursuit of wealth and status will truly bring us fulfillment.
And maybe most importantly, he reminds us to look beyond the shimmering surface, to see the humanity in those around us, to recognize that true connection, genuine love, compassion are ultimately more valuable than any material possession.
That's a powerful thought to carry with you.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those questions, to revisit this timeless novel.
Absolutely.
And draw your own conclusions.